So you're building an AI rig, right? And you've probably run headfirst into this exact dilemma. Do you go with the raw, brute force power of the older RTX 3070 or the new, shiny, efficient RTX 4060? Well, today we're settling that debate. We're going to break down exactly which GPU is the right tool for your specific AI job. So which one really deserves that precious spot in your machine? Let's find out. But first, you've got to ask yourself one super important question. What's your mission? Are you training a new model from scratch? Like teaching a student in a classroom? Or are you doing inference, which is more like asking that student who's already graduated to just give you the answer? Seriously, your answer to that question is going to point you directly to the right GPU, because these two jobs, well, they value very different things. And here are our two fighters in the ring. On one side, we've got the RTX 3070, a tried and true workhorse from the Ampere generation known for its sheer muscle. And on the other side, we have the RTX 4060, the new kid on the block, a smarter architect from the Ada Lovelace family that's built from the ground up for efficiency. Two totally different philosophies, two very different ways to tackle AI. Okay, let's pop the hood. It's time for the tale of the tape. We're going to get a little technical here and break down the raw specs, just to see what these cards are made of on paper, before we unleash them on some real work. This table tells such a fascinating story. At first glance, the RTX 3070 looks like the heavyweight champ, right? It's got nearly double the CUDA cores, that's the raw muscle we were talking about. But then, you look at the TDP. The 4060 sips power at almost half the rate. See, this isn't just a spec sheet. It's a clash of generations. And it makes us ask a really important question. What's better? More raw power or smarter, more efficient power? Let's really dig into that number for a second. The RTX 3070 comes packing 5,888 CUDA cores. The best way to think about these is like individual workers on a giant assembly line. For jobs that need a ton of things done at once, like training AI models, having more workers just means you get the job done faster. Simple as that. This is the 3070's knockout punch, on paper. But here's the 4060's counterpunch. It runs on just 115 watts. And that's not just a number, that's a huge deal in the real world. It means your PC runs cooler, it runs quieter, you don't need a monster power supply, and you can even build a smaller, sleeker machine. If you're going to be running AI tasks for hours and hours, that difference in heat and noise, trust me, you'll feel it every single day. Okay, now let's talk about another massive difference: memory bandwidth. Think of it like a data highway. The RTX 3070 has this huge 8-lane superhighway running at 448 gigabytes per second. This lets it feed its massive army of CUDA cores way more data, way faster, which is absolutely critical when you're training models. Now, the 4060's highway is a bit narrower, but its Ada Lovelace architecture has some clever tricks, like a huge L2 cache that act like smart on-ramps to reduce traffic jams. All right, so the spec sheet gives us the theory, right? The 3070 has the muscle, the 4060 has the brains and the efficiency. But what actually happens when the rubber meets the road? Let's throw them into the AI performance showdown and see where the specs meet reality. So just as a quick reminder, we're looking at two totally different battlegrounds here. Training, that's the heavy lifting, the really compute-intensive process of actually building the model's brain. Then there's inference. That's the fast, efficient part, where you just use that brain to, say, generate an image or write a line of text. And whoa, here's where things get wild. Our first big upset. For inference tasks, like making images with stable diffusion, the newer, weaker RTX 4060 actually pulls ahead. So you're probably asking, how does it win with fewer cores? Well, the secret sauce is its 4th-generation tensor cores and its support for a new data format called FP8. Basically, it learned a new, more efficient language for AI, letting it work smarter, not just harder. It's pretty incredible. But then we flip the script. We give it a raw compute task, like running a large language model, and the 3070 comes roaring back to reclaim its crown. That wider data highway and that army of CUDA cores just tear through the text, processing it almost twice as fast. And this right here, this is the perfect example of why your workload is everything. The better card completely changes depending on the job you give it. So with all that info swirling around, how in the world do you actually choose? Let's put it all together and figure out the perfect AI match specifically for you. Okay, let's make this super simple. Just ask yourself, what am I going to be doing most of the time? If your main goal is training your own models from the ground up, you really need the raw horsepower and bandwidth of the 3070. But if you're mostly just using AI, generating images, chatting with models, then the 4060's modern, efficient design is absolutely your best bet. Is a small, quiet PC a priority? Go 4060, no question. Are you a data scientist pushing massive datasets? Then the 3070 still has a real claim to your reg. Of course, this is really just scratching the surface of the whole AI hardware universe. If you want to go even deeper, we've got just the place for you to continue your journey. We actually pulled a lot of our analysis for this from the amazing folks over at bestgpusforai.com. If you really want to dive deep into the rabbit hole with way more benchmarks and details, they are an absolutely fantastic resource. We've gone ahead and dropped the link down in the description for you. So at the end of the day, this choice between the 3070 and the 4060, it's not just about two graphics cards. It's really a preview of a bigger battle for the future of computing. As AI keeps exploding, what's going to win out? Is it brute force power, just adding more and more lanes to that data highway? Or is it going to be smarter, more elegant designs that do more with less? That is the big question. Let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me.